been waiting for you.
Hey guys, Will here, and today we're gonna look at this, the Nitecore TIKI. Oh man, it's midnight, and this is the only time I can shoot, so I'm being powered by whiskey. Johnny Walker Black, Speyside Origin. Yums. Okay, so this is sort of like a review of the Nitecore TIKI and the comparison versus the Rovyvon, which is, I guess it's inspired. So let's just say the elephant inside the room, which is Nitecore and just basically copied Rovyvon, or you can say inspired, but they basically stole their design. Let's see, it looks exact. So I think people are going to be interested in this if they're interested in this. So why this A5 instead of just one of the brand new upgraded A5X or A8X? Just because I'm a cheap ass and I just not gonna buy a newer light to compare it. But anyway, you can also say that the A5X actually has the bigger battery capacity because they actually made the body bigger. So it starts getting bigger. You get that kind of size creep and the weight creep as you increase the size. As you can see, like this is a AAA flashlight. These are all AAA flashlight size. So as you get up, then it's like, is it still a keychain flashlight? Yeah, you could say it still is, but it's not a direct comparison. So I think this is an okay comparison. So today I'm going to be comparing different characteristics of each light, and they're sort of subjective and objective. I wouldn't say there's I would put like a numerical value between every characteristic because some of them are just trivial and just like so nuanced that it might not even matter to you. I mean, so you should get yourself your pen and paper and you can just write your own numerical value or something, whether you think it's even worth comparing to see who actually is the winner between these two lights. How about the lumens comparison? The Rovyvon A5 has 350 lumens, while the Nitecore TIKI has only 300. That is a difference, but the Nitecore TIKI runs a awesome P8, which is sort of a cool white and has like a bit of a, like I think a smaller, more throwy LED, a smaller LED die. And the Rovyvon A5 is using a Nichia on my Nichia 219C. So they actually are kind of comparable, so it's almost between the lumens. If I check it, the A5 has like the initial brightness at the very beginning, but they almost become comparable, especially to the eye. So it's almost negligible between which one is brighter, even though on paper A5 350 lumens, TIKI 300 lumens. Tint-wise, comparing these two models, this Rovyvon A5 has around 4500 with a 90 plus CRI, which is very beautiful to eyes. It's really awesome. And this Osram has a, I would say, they don't list the tint, but I would say the kind of color is around 5500. So if you like cool white, you're definitely gonna like the Nitecore TIKI. It's not a greenish, so it's actually a nice, very pure white, so pretty good as well. But the difference between the two would be that the Rovyvon kind of has like a more even beam, while the Osram has a little bit more of a hot spot and more ringy type of beam patterns. In the outside, if you're white wall hunting, of course you can see the rings, but in the outside, actually, it's negligible as well. So between these two, I like the Nichia because I like the warmer tint. It looks so much better. The high CRI looks much better, but there is a caveat for that, so I'll mention that later. Runtime between the two. So runtime is they're about the same. So the TIKI is going to run that higher lumen at 30 minutes. A5 is at 350 lumens at 30 limits, so you can say maybe the Rovyvon's a little bit more efficient. The next level, so this is from medium. The next level, the TIKI is running 1 hour for the 60 lumens, and the A5 is running 15 minutes for 170 lumens. And then going down another level lower, we have the A5 at 12 lumens for about 3.1 hours, and we have the Tiki at 15 lumens for 4 hours. So I would say they're roughly the same. You know, the spread out feels about the same by the eye, and the run times are comparable. So there's no like real big advantage between any of them. But the Tiki does have an ultra low at 1 lumen that runs for 40 hours. So that's one extra thing. So the A5 has a useless strobe that they should just throw away. But more useful is the Tiki has this ultra low, so you can say maybe the spread out of the outputs is a little bit better for the Tiki. What else? Let's talk about the auxiliaries. So this Rovyvon A5 has my more favorite ones which is red and white, but the Tiki has a UV, which is not as useful, I think, especially because it's not as powerful. And they have a high CRI white that's very, very strong. 1, 2, 3. And then click the next. Yeah, it's super strong. So I would compare this. This is how I would compare it in terms of auxiliary lights. This is how I would compare it. The UV is kind of useless. You can use it for money. It's very close things for charging up your watch and stuff like that. Very weak. Rovyvon, their UV is exactly the same. You know, that's not super useful. The auxiliary white on the Tiki is much, much better than the A5. It is just one. It's high CRI, and the output of the beam is I would say, is very equivalent to the LED light on your cell phone. So if you have like an iPhone and you run the cell phone light, that's what it looks like. Now, if you run this, the Rovyvon, and their light is it's a cool white with 2 LEDs. It's actually comparable to your phone screen. So imagine you have your phone screen and you're trying to light up something with like a white background on your phone screen, and it's much, much lower than the LED light of the camera of your iPhone or whatever phone you're using. That's what it exactly compares to. So Tiki is better for that, but they don't have the red unless you get the LE version, law enforcement, and the blue and blinking red. Oh my god, that is bad news. That's a lot of places you can get in trouble for that, for impersonating a cop. So you can get in trouble, and they shouldn't have made that. I mean, that is very specific model for certain type of people, not for normal consumers. Now let's talk about the UI. UI is practically the same. You have the hold. That's what I mean. You can say basically Nitecore stole their design. Whether it's I'm not even sure if it was patent pending. I mean, whether it's unethical or not, it's very hard to tell. Or if the engineer who designed the original Rovyvon jumped ship to the Nitecore and took his design with him, then maybe that's the reason. So who knows? I mean, if you know the reason, you could comment below. I don't know exactly the reason, but I think people are interested in this Tiki. So the UI, it's basically, I mean, there's nothing broke with it, so it's basically the same. You hold and you get the tactical for each one, and double click, and then single clicks between the modes, hold to off, triple click, and oops, 1, 2, 3, triple click, and you get into your different modes. Okay, so the Tiki, which people are interested in, the modes will be UV. Next is the high CR white light. Next is a strobe of that white light. And it's actually very, very bright. So if you had like a boat where you're putting on your bike, or you put on anything or your campsite, it is super bright. A lot of people are going to notice it. It's a lot more brighter than 1, 2, 3. It's a lot more brighter than this when you compare these two. Super noticeable. So you can argue that the Tiki has that kind of like attention function to grab someone's eye attention for safety. I mean, you could use this like if you had your car stranded on the side of the road and you had to put up a road flare kind of thing. This could be a road flare without blinding people. You're not using a strobe. You can put this on the ground and use it for safety, like for that kind of way. And that's pretty cool. Accessories. Let's talk about the accessories between these two models. This is Nitecore's packaging. Just that, and nothing else. So everything you got from the Nitecore thing is right here. It's just basically this this keychain ring. So with the Rovyvon, you get a whole bunch of stuff. You can check out my Rovyvon E5 review, my thorough review, and you get clips for it, necklace and other stuff, and lanyard and cables and different extra stuff that comes with it. A lot of stuff for the user. This is strictly, it looks like they made this as a keychain line as its primary function. So if you like those extra accessories, this of course Rovyvon is better with that. If you don't care for those accessories, the Nitecore Tiki may be your better choice because it's much cheaper. So it's sort of you're saving the money on that way. Now let's compare the bodies. I'm not going to bother with the specs in a way because they're pretty much about exactly the same. If you look at it, just any kind of size or weight difference is going to be negligible. But I have to compare the bodies between these two things. One thing I like about the Rovyvon is that you can just clip like a carabiner onto it easier. This clips on like that, and then so it's easy to take it off, and then you don't have any extra dangling stuff with it. With the Nitecore Tiki, you cannot do that. It's actually quite a very tight hole. So it's not as useful, but you do have this, you know, you can just solve that with like a key ring, and then you can attach a carabiner to that way. So between the two different models, between Rovyvon and the Tiki, Nitecore claims like a very high pull rate on this. If you look at the design, it's a nice little arc, and as you know, arc is one of the strongest like forms and that you can engineer. Like that's why you see arc bridge, they last forever, even old ones, because it's a very strong design. So I'm sure this has a very strong weight pull, and it's possible it's stronger than this Rovyvon. But to be honest, in my opinion, that's probably, you don't need that freakish weight pull on it. So I actually prefer the Rovyvon. It's a little bit more practical. And I also, Rovyvon's glow in the dark. It's super nice to have that glow in the dark function. So definitely the Rovyvon, I would say, is the better body. I mentioned about the beams. So between the different things, the Nitecore's beam is just not as polished. You have like, it's a bit of a hot spot and ringy. While it's a little bit more polished with the Rovyvon, what you have a more even circle of the light. And regarding PWM, they both use PWM, but the Nitecore actually has a worse PWM, which you'll notice. So if you're sensitive to PWM, Rovyvon is a better choice. Their PWM is like much tighter waves. It's less noticeable. For my eyes, I cannot notice the PWM for either of them. I didn't even realize it until I tested it with a camera. So for me, it's negligible between the two, especially if the Nitecore is going to offer me ultra low. But if you're sensitive to PWM, Rovyvon for sure. And if you like a cleaner beam, Rovyvon for sure. If you don't care for those stuff, it's or you want a tighter, a little bit more throw, a little bit more tighter beam, then the Tiki might be for you. Now let's talk into the desperate nitpick mode. We're talking about the micro USB. I would say they're slightly different, and between the Rovyvon and the Nitecore, I would say the Nitecore lid is a little bit tighter, so it's a little bit harder to get. While you have the Rovyvon, you can pull it out, and then see it's much more out of the way, right? So it's easier to push in the micro USB when you're charging it up between the two. But between the two, the Nitecore is actually more stable when you put the plug into it. When you put it kind of like halfway, it starts to light up the thing. The Rovyvon is actually more picky with plugs. When you put it in, it has to reach all the way to the end to start charging. And not only that, I have found that some of my micro USB cables actually does not work with the Rovyvon. It actually cannot even light it up to charge. So I guess the charging, the little port is a little bit more sunken into the body, which makes it a little bit more finicky, right? So an edge for Nitecore for that. And regarding the charging colors, Rovyvon is red and then turns blue, right? Nitecore is their traditional fashion, which they are blue, and then it goes out when it's fully charged. I actually like the Rovyvon better in terms of charging. that charging kind of display, because the Rovyvon, I can know for sure that it's plugged in. Do you know what I mean? Because it's lit no matter what. So there's never that kind of error where you think maybe I didn't plug it in correctly, or maybe the power is not going through the cable. It's like plugged into the wall correctly for whatever reason. So that's actually nicer. It's a little bit more backup to ensure yourself that the Rovyvon is actually charging. Now let's talk about the buttons here, right? So we have the buttons and a little bit different. The Rovyvon sticks out a little bit more, as you can notice. All right. So here, I used the weight machine to test it. I put a piece of like a wood stick down and then I stuck it in, pushed it against the weight thing, and I found between the two that that the Nitecore is actually requires twice as more effort. It's not to say it's bad and what's good. I'm going to give you the characteristics and you have to decide for yourself which is better, which is not. And I have my own preference on which I like. So Nitecore requires more pressure to activate it, while the Rovyvon requires less pressure to activate it. So between the two, there's a feel of like the Nitecore is a bit mushy, or it's a little bit more sunken in, and then the feel of the Rovyvon feels like it's more direct. As soon as there's no play, and then it clicks into it. So I would say, regarding those characteristics, they kind of give you a pro and con for each one. So for the Nitecore TIKI, if you're worried about the light accidentally turning on, all you have to, then the Nitecore is safer because you have to push it harder. It's more sunken in, so you won't get the accidental turn on. And with the Rovyvon, it's so much better in feel. When you push it, it's direct. It's like there's no kind of like lag or delay. So that kind of feeling, it's actually for the user, it's much more enjoyable. So between the two, I actually like the Rovyvon a lot better. It actually it makes a difference for me. The way this feels like mushy. That's something I think Nitecore should work on. The way the Rovyvon feels more direct. Again, I keep using this word, and just the feeling that the Rovyvon feels more polished. All right, so it feels more polished, and yeah, I would say that I like the Rovyvon better. And because of the UI, you won't really, despite if you had like a quick accidental like turn on like that, it's not going to stay on in your bag or in your pants like just like burning a hole, because the UI is already good. Tactical. So between the two lights as well, there is a lag between, if this matters for you, when you push that first mode where you hold and then the tactical turns on, it's full blast, full output, and it'll, I don't know, use it for defense or use to light up something, to see whatever's down the thing, and then you just press it and then release it and it shuts off. Okay, right? So between the two, they have an actual look at the delay. Squeeze both at the same time, and then you see that kind of delay. Wait, let's see if we can get this on camera. You see that delay? So the Rovyvon actually turns on much more quicker. I mean, you can say that it's not so much quicker, it's negligible. That's up to you. I'm just gonna state what I observed. And so for me, the Rovyvon, if that was important to me, actually it's not that important, but if that was important to me, then to have that instant, no delay, tactical full brightness, then, not just with the switch feeling so more direct, you just get the beam just more direct. It's like there's no lag. So that's when you press this and it turns on, it's a little bit of lag. So it's not as an enjoyable experience, but it's not horrible either. So, but I want to let you know. Now the thermal between the two lights. The thermal, I'll show you. I'll put up the graph, and between the two lights, the LEDs play a big portion to how the lights behave with the heat. Nitecore is famous or infamous for high heat. No matter which flashlight you put on, they just create a lot of heat. This Osram P8 that's inside this Nitecore runs super cool. At the 300 lumens, it's not pushing it at all whatsoever. So when you look at the graph, you notice that it freaking shoots up like crazy on the Rovyvon A5. So if that's if you're gonna run your lights like especially the higher output for a long time, you might not want. And this may be more of a problem about the Nitia than the Rovyvon. You might not want a Nitia, or because this will require because there's just so little heat sink in this design. It's going to heat up like a bastard, and then it'll cool down and go like into like these sub lumens, like 10% of the lumens, and something very low. Both of these lights just cannot maintain that. They're keychain lines. I don't even expect them to maintain that, so it's not like a huge deal killer. But in the long run, the Nitecore TIKI, and I'm going to show the beam shots as well. The Nitecore TIKI actually can run brighter because as it cools down, it doesn't go down to a lower level. It's actually a little bit higher than the Rovyvon, despite the Rovyvon having the 350 and the initial, very, very initial higher output. So if you had to run your flashlight for a longer period, you want a cool LED. You'll want something cooler, and that's this Osram PA inside this Nitecore TIKI. So if you're not like a tin snob, don't want any warm tins, then Nitecore TIKI is a good choice. But it does have something a little bit quirky. When it's going on the graph and then it drops down, it's not. It seems as if it's timed. It's not so much because it's overheating, but that I think the reason why they make it drop and is visibly noticeable that the output just drops down and then just kind of recovers. That I think the reason they did that is just to save on the battery capacity to run it at a lower output, because if you're running that full output, it's just going to drain this kind of small capacity cells super fast. So something to consider on that, right? So the initial and the lux, if you look compared between the two, they're almost kind of the same. They kind of like they go up and then they dip, and they have a slightly different dipping pattern between the two, and they almost settle off kind of the same. But again, Nitecore TIKI ends up being the brighter one, despite having the lower lumens on the paper, because I guess because they run it cooler, that they can just run it at higher lumens. Beam shots, Rovyvon versus TIKI. Let's start with the Nitecore TIKI. Ultra low, not gonna see it. Let's shine it on the floor. Very low. Low. Medium. High. Ultra low, low, medium, high. Rovyvon A5, low, medium, high. Strobe, low, medium, high. So, conclusion. What is my conclusion? I carried these two lights together to test it. To test it very thoroughly and to get a really strong opinion, because it was very hard actually. I carried the two lights together initially, then I carried each light separately to see if I missed anything or liked anything between one or the other. And I finally came up with my decision and conclusion between the two, and my advice for the people. First, it's nice to have more options as a consumer. That it kind of sparks like it's a catalyst for for the brands to push harder. So I'm not so angry about Nitecore copying them or whatever, but because for the consumer it's much better from that aspect. But they are actually quite similar, and maybe you can say the Nitecore TIKI could be like a slightly more polished or earlier Rovyvon type of model, but still have maybe like the Rovyvon DNA. I would say like neither have like the clear advantage, and I wouldn't even say, you know, that's one thing I have to talk about is the price between the two. And that's like the last thing to compare. And it's the most significant thing to compare. This Nitecore Tiki cost me 20 USD shipped to my door. That's 20 USD. I paid for this Rovyvon A5, I think $38 USD. That was with a coupon because I have to pay shipping on top of the cost. So $38 versus $20, you know, that's significant. It's almost double the cost. And I can't even say that, you know, like, oh, here's a Nitecore Tiki. It is 90% of this light for half the cost. I can't even say that because it's not 90%. It's its own thing. And this is its own thing. So they kind of have their pros and cons. And from what I can give it as advice, first of all, let me just say which light has won my keychain roll. Here's my keychain. I don't like keeping so many, you know, I don't like it being heavy. That's why for keychains, it got to be the smallest. And I'm even to buy like the A5X or A8X that I was considering. I know they got a little bit bigger and a little bit heavier. I'm not sure if I like that because I don't need like for a keychain light to be like super powerful. I just carry EDC on top of that, you know. I just want something like very compact and light. So which of these two lights wins my keychain roll? That is the Rovyvon. The Rovyvon wins over the Tiki, and it's simply because I like the tint, the niche option. Nitecore doesn't offer niche options, and for a keychain light, I don't expect the light to run super bright, super long. I'm just gonna run for short little like alleyways or little slightly darker areas, or for shorter times. And the overheating of the niche, it becomes sort of negligible. I'm still not a super fan of the UI. I would say my perfect one would be if Rovyvon, if they had some kind of option where you can kind of like click 8 times or 10 times from off, and that would disable all the stupid timer things, which I hate. I hate those timer things that, you know, oh, you have to count off the timer, then maybe the way it shuts off is different, or this kind of stuff. I have no idea why they did that, but I hate timers and UIs because they make it unpredictable. But it's not deal killer. I like the tint. I like the way the button feels. It feels so much better. And all the outputs all spread out. Everything else is fine. The glow in the dark is nice. It doesn't have the auxiliary, the high CR one that I really would love into this. But I think some of the other newer Rovyvons they actually have those ultra lows, and they strip the strobe out, and they put the high CR light. So maybe you can argue that Rovyvon has kind of fixed a lot of my nitpicks about this light. And but they also introduce like 3-minute timers, some other stuff that I don't think I can deal with. But between the two, yeah, that is more important. Between all those characters, that's more important. So I like the button feel, the way the beam looks, and everything else is kind of negligible. The run times are almost similar. The outputs are almost similar. It's not deal killer for the auxiliary lights are kind of like more of a plus. They're like second usage, and I'm not my number one usage. One thing you can argue though is that Rovyvon, despite costing more, and you can say like the A6 might be a better A6 it's on sale and kind of closer. I think it's around 27, closer to this price. Rovyvon gives you a lot of more accessories, so you have to determine as a consumer yourself. It's not like Rovyvon is trying to say, oh, they're trying to make more profit off a Nitecore Tiki. They're giving you more. You're getting more accessories out of it, but you have to determine yourself, are those accessories worth it? For me, it actually is no. I don't plan on using the clips and other necklace. All those accessories and micro USB cables, I have tons of those. All of those are actually in the box still, and like I'm not going to take them out. They have no use for me. In fact, the Nitecore Tiki with just this keychain ring is actually more useful. So regarding the price, so I wouldn't say Rovyvon is a ripoff or anything like that, but Tiki is definitely a value. So I think I'm rambling too much, so let me get into my conclusion, talking more about it, because I would say this has won my choice between the two lights because I own both of them. This is my number one choice, and this will take my keychain roll. Now, if you're a consumer who is buying the lights, you own no Tiki or Rovyvon or anything like that. If you're a first-time buyer, then I would actually just recommend the Nitecore TIKI as the winner. If I didn't have this Rovyvon, I probably didn't know what I'm missing, and I just Nitecore TIKI is there's whatever its kind of pros and cons. It's actually not so harsh, and the price is so much cheaper. So that feels much better, and you can get like two. You can buy multiple and install in different places. It's not it's not a bad light for $20 shipped. So if I was a first time buyer, and if you're a first time buyer, you don't own any of it, yeah, the Nitecore TIKI is my choice for the winner of that. Now, in terms of gift slash muggle, this will be the final thing between the two. The Nitecore TIKI is the better gift slash muggle light, and that would be the gift if you're to gift to like your family or your friends or bosses or whoever. The Nitecore TIKI is the better gift light because it's number one, it's much cheaper. I'm going back to the price. It's so much cheaper to give people, and when people like muggles and who don't give a crap about flashlight, they don't care about these small things or high CRIs or anything like that. They don't like the UI is a little bit more simple. If I have to ask someone to describe the UI, I don't have to mention about the timers of this or anything like that. I just can say the UI much more simply, and I think they can understand it. And it doesn't, you don't have all this extra accessory. It's just quite simple. It is your keychain light. Everyone has a keychain, and so yeah, I think this makes the better gift light and muggle light. So if you're going to buy a stack of these to give out, the Nitecore TIKI is the one. So I would say then if you're like kind of a flashlight connoisseur, then you're more deep into flashlight, of course, so you're gonna more appreciate I think the Rovyvon and what they offer, and I feel like they're a little bit more refined and thinking more about different little small things. So that's pretty much it. I think I discussed basically everything about the small little nitpicks about between the two, and I have made my decision. Rovyvon is for me. Then I just like probably put this on my wife's keychain, so that she can have it. Because before my wife is so stupid. I have like a Bluetooth, Bluetooth kind of like a marker or tracker, and then I put it on her keychain because she loses her keys. So then I can activate the app, and then I can activate the tracker to make an alarm sound. And the other day she just like start pushing the button. She goes, "Is this a flashlight?" And of course there's no flashlight LED. There's no anything on this device. And oh my god, like that's what I mean. Like there's people don't care about like all these like. They don't care about flashlights, so they're probably just like double click to turn it on. Just think small things like that, and then hold to turn off, And so it's definitely more friendlier. So anyway, thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe. Subscribing and liking is the free things that you can do to help this channel go. And I appreciate everybody watching, and I'll see you guys next time.